This is Dr. Della Welch again, and our lesson today is to continue with our problems about contract law. One question is, what is an implied in fact contract? That is where the parties, by their conduct, a contract can be inferred. For example, suppose my tooth is hurting me and it's hurting so bad I can't talk, so I go into the dentist and I point at the sore tooth. He fills it up and he sends me a bill for $150. And I say, "What do you mean? I didn't say a thing." And he said, "Well, by your conduct, it can reasonably be inferred that you would pay the reasonable price of the tooth repair." So that is an implied in fact contract. And so I would have to pay the bill of $150. There's also what is known as an implied in law contract or a quasi-contract. That is where the plaintiff obtains a benefit that it would be unfair to have the defendant be required to pay for this. This would result in an unjust enrichment. There is an example in the classic text in the law school about a fellow who goes to college and he's from a farm, and while he's gone, his neighbor sneaks into his shed and uses his egg washer machine. Well, the court found out that the neighbor who was sneaking in was unjustly enriched, and he had to pay the reasonable value of the egg washing machine. Then also a question is raised about the mailbox rule. Under this rule, an acceptance is effective upon dispatch. For example, let's say that a very prestigious university, say X University, writes me a letter and wants me to be a professor there. Well, let's say that I'm so excited that I write on the letter, offer accepted, and I put it in my mailbox after I sign it. Well, that acceptance is effective upon dispatch. Let's say that a famous politician loses election and the University X finds out they can get this famous politician to teach contract law and they no longer want me. Well, I would say the acceptance was effective upon dispatch. If there's a revocation or rejection or any other documents, they're effective only upon receipt. And remember the word equity. You may wonder what that is. Equity is designed to have fairness, and what would be fair. Now to look at some essay questions. It's important on taking essay questions to know what words are extra and what words actually pertain to an offer. One question says, Bill, a financier whose hobby was growing orchids, that would just be background, wanted to help Mary, his widowed daughter-in-law. So there's a relationship here between Bill, who is the father-in-law, and then the daughter-in-law. So there may be some motivation to give gifts. Mary had been left impoverished upon the death of her husband, Bill's son. Knowing that Mary would not accept charity, Bill wrote the following signed letter. Anytime you see a signed letter or someone saying something, it raises an issue. Is the wording that follows an offer? And the letter says, if you will, come to my place and cultivate my orchids, you can have a room and more than $200 per month until my death. The orchids are getting too burdensome for me. So is there present intent? It looks like he says, if you will, like now he wants to make a deal. Come and tend my orchids and cultivate the orchids. And then he's saying that she can have a room and more than $200. Well, the terms aren't definite and certain if it says more than $200. Is that $1 million? That's not clear. So anytime we fail on something in terms of the offer that's not present, such as the definite and certain terms, then we have to look at promissory estoppel. We have to look, was a promise made? Yes, the old man wanted someone to come and tend and care for his orchids named Mary. So what we look at is a promise was made, and then you say, is it foreseeable to rely? Well, here we have a father-in-law and a daughter-in-law, so it looks like she could foreseeably rely on a relative. And then we say, would injustice result if we don't give this Mary person what she was hurt? Let's see, the problem goes on to say what she was hurt. Mary thereupon left her domicile and went to Bill's country estate. Well, did she fly? Did she incur travel costs? Most likely. Where she efficiently tended the orchids. But then you can say, on the other hand, it says she was impoverished, so she may be in a better condition at her father-in-law's home. A year later, Bill evicts Mary and terminates. What result? Mary comes to you and finds out how to file a suit against Bill. Well, you would file it under promissory estoppel, which is also known as Restatement 90 of Contracts. And then we have another question about Mrs. Dodds with her father, and then we will put that on the next tape or the next recording.